Welcome to Stories of Faith, where we explore the classic narratives of the Bible and draw out their deepest lessons. In today's video, we'll journey back in time to the plains by the Dead Sea, home to two once prosperous yet sinful cities, Sodom and Gomorrah. Before we begin, if you haven't already, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell so you won't miss any of our inspiring and meaningful stories. In this installment, we'll uncover why God pronounced judgment, follow Lot and his family's flight to safety, and examine the remnants left behind after the catastrophe, all brought to life in vivid, detailed storytelling. Imagine a tranquil sunset spreading its glow over the plains by the Dead Sea, the fiery red sun slowly sinking below the horizon, dunes of gray-green sand stretching as far as the eye can see, and the air growing oppressively heavy. There lay the two cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, once prosperous, now drowning in the darkness of sin and pride. Abraham, the venerable father of faith, sat lost in thought before his tent. As night fell, he lifted his eyes to the star-filled sky and remembered God's promise. "Through you all nations will be blessed." Yet, in his heart he heard a distant, anguished cry rising from the southern plains, the lament of countless lives swept away in the whirlwind of wickedness. Suddenly three mysterious guests appeared, their human forms suffused with a faint, otherworldly light. Abraham did not yet know that one was the Lord himself and the other two were angels, but his hospitable heart compelled him to act. He invited them in, sent a servant to prepare fresh dough, selected the choicest veal, and drew sweet wine from his vineyard. When the three took their seats, Abraham knelt and fussed over every detail: tender veal, warm bread, fragrant wine to lavish on his honored visitors. During the meal, one of the three looked up at Abraham and declared, "Your wife Sarah will have a son this time next year." Sarah, kneading dough inside the tent, laughed softly in disbelief. She was well past 90. How could she bear a child? But the voice of the Lord rang clear. "Is anything impossible for me?" That promise passed, the conversation turned to Sodom. "I have heard the outcry against that city," the Lord said, "and I have come to see if their deeds match the outcry. If not, I will know." Deep compassion welling in his heart, Abraham rose and paced before God, pleading, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous, will you spare the whole place?" God answered, "If I find 50 there, I will spare the whole region for their sake." Encouraged, Abraham pressed down to 45, 40, 30, 20, until finally 10. Each time God graciously agreed that if even 10 righteous were found, he would withhold judgment. That night Abraham lay awake, repeating the number 10, hoping in the Lord's mercy. At dawn the next day, the Lord himself became two angels and set out for Sodom. They passed through a toll station where soldiers seized travelers' goods, then paused at the city gate, where they met Lot, Abraham's nephew, sitting quietly. Lot, having heard word of impending judgment, hurried to welcome them. "Please come to my house, wash your feet, rest." He led them in, calling to his wife and 2 daughters. "Quick, prepare a meal." A simple feast: porridge, meat, and bread was laid out, but Lot fumbled nervously, as if even ordinary hospitality felt weighed down by the city's corruption. Night deepened, and Sodom pulsed with revelry shouts, music from the palaces of the rich, whispers of licentious deeds. Suddenly the door to Lot's house was battered open. A horde of men, old and young, surged in from the gate, their faces twisted in the flickering torchlight. "Bring out these visitors so we can abuse them," they bellowed. Wild-eyed brutes shoved and snarled, and Lot, trembling, stood in the doorway. "No! These are my guests!" The mob roared all the louder. In desperation Lot blurted, "Instead of them, take my daughters, do with them as you wish." The angels silenced him. Placing a firm hand on Lot's shoulder, they spoke with authority and compassion. "Hurry, take your family out of the city." No resistance was needed. Lot seized his wife and daughters and led them to the back of the house, where a carriage stood ready. The mob pressed close, but in that moment the angels stretched out their hands, and suddenly all the would-be attackers were struck blind, fumbling into walls and crashing into one another in shrill panic. As Lot, his wife, and daughters climbed aboard, the angels whispered, "Flee for your lives! Don't look back or stop anywhere in the plain. Run to the mountains to avoid being swept away. The carriage rolled softly over the sand, the sky behind them flushed pink with dawn. Lot exhaled, glancing anxiously at his wife, who hesitated. Which way shall we go? The small town of Zor is closer, can't we stop there? One angel turned, voice hardening. All these good things have been granted you, no questions. Go straight ahead. They plunged down a narrow track among the dunes, and in the distance a crimson glare pulsed, fire and brimstone pouring from the sky in a sulphurous rain. Thunder roared like the crash of 1,000 hammers. Lot's heart pounded, his clothes damp with cold sweat. In mere moments the sky above the plain went pitch black, and a deluge of burning stones crashed upon Sodom, then rained down upon Gomorrah. Lot dared not look back, but his wife's curiosity overcame her. Just one glance, she thought, and turned her head. At that instant her form stiffened, frozen in mid-step, then she became a pillar of salt, solitary amid the desolation. Lot's daughters screamed and clung to him. He stood, stunned, tears streaming, helpless. By morning, when the sun pierced the ashes, Lot and his daughters stood bewildered at the edge of what had once been fertile fields. All that remained were piles of rubble, collapsed walls, and a salt-crusted plain reflecting the harsh light. A southerly wind blew, carrying fine grey dust that whispered of untold sorrow. Lot's daughters, grief-stricken, huddled by a stream, collecting leaves for bedding, reciting mournful songs of lament. Their father's mind replayed the final gaze of his wife, an image forever etched in his heart. Word of the city's destruction spread like wildfire. No traveler dared approach the cursed plain. The ground burned beneath their feet, the air hung heavy, and some claimed to hear faint cries carried on the wind, the voices of the lost. The tale of Sodom and Gomorrah became legend, an enduring warning. When humanity plunges into wickedness, turns from justice and mercy, it digs its own grave. Yet even amid doom, the Lord's boundless compassion shone, granting Abraham the chance to intercede, guarding Lot and his little family, and leaving a testament of mercy in the ashes. Though the cities lay in ruin, their story echoes through the ages, a call to live righteously, to trust in prayer, and to heed the fine line between grace and judgment. One backward glance can cost everything, one earnest plea can unleash mercy. In that barren wasteland, we still hear a song of hope beckoning us ever onward to goodness and refuge in limitless love. And that concludes the dramatic saga of Sodom and Gomorrah, from their height of prosperity to their tragic destruction, from overwhelming sin to the echoes of divine mercy found in the lingering ashes. This story serves not only as a timeless warning about justice and the consequences of wrongdoing, but also as a testament to the power of prayer and God's boundless love when we turn back to Him. If you found this video helpful, please click like, share your thoughts in the comments, and hit subscribe to join us on every journey of discovery. Wishing you peace, and thank you sincerely for watching. We'll see you in our next story on Stories of Faith.